Have you ever walked into one of those blindingly bright modern grocery stores, completely overwhelmed by a massive mountain of giant, perfectly stacked green watermelons? You stand there under the artificial lights, you tap a few of them with your knuckles, and you look around hoping nobody is judging you. Because, let us be honest, you have absolutely no idea what you're listening for. So, you just guess. You pay $8, maybe $10. You haul that heavy thing all the way home, you slice it open upon the kitchen counter, and your heart just sinks. The flesh inside is a pale, sad pink. You take a bite, and it is mealy, dry, and tastes like crunchy tap water. It is a complete disappointment. Or perhaps, feeling totally defeated by your past failures, you walk right past the pile of whole fruits. Instead, you reach into the cooler, and you pay $7 or $8 for a tiny, sweating plastic tub of pre-cut melon chunks, just crossing your fingers that the factory worker who sliced it happened to pick a decent one. You're trading your hard-earned money for convenience, and you're getting less than half the quality. The modern food industry absolutely loves that. They profit heavily off our lost connection to our own food. They package up convenience and charge you a premium for something that nature provides for just a few dollars. If only you knew how to read the signs. You are throwing away dozens of dollars every summer on tasteless fruit and single-use plastics. But you do not have to fall into that trap anymore. Today, I'm going to show you how to read a watermelon the way you would read a good old book. By the end of our time together, you will know exactly how to walk up to any farm stand or grocery bin, trust your own hands and eyes, and walk away with a heavy, sugar-filled, perfectly ripe fruit every single time. Hello, friends. My name is John. Now, you might look at me and see a young man of Asian descent, and you would be right. But the lessons that truly shaped my hands, my mind, and my understanding of the world came from a very different place. For a significant chapter of my life, I chose to step entirely away from the buzzing wires, the glowing screens, and the relentless, exhausting rush of the modern city. I lived alongside the Amish, embracing a life completely off the grid, without the hum of electricity or the crutch of modern technology. Out there, in the quiet of the fields, you learn something profound. You learn to pay attention. When you do not have a massive energy-draining refrigerator to artificially force your food to last longer, you are forced to learn exactly when a fruit is ready to be taken from the earth. You learn to respect the deep, steady timing of nature. In that simple life, the elders taught me how to read the world. They do not look at stickers with factory barcodes. They do not trust an expiration date stamped by a machine. They trust the soil. They trust their bare hands. They trust their ears. They taught me that every piece of fruit tells the story of its own life, right there on its skin, if you only have the patience to read it. This is not some clever new internet hack. This is the old way. This is exactly how our ancestors, whether they were farming the terraced hills of Asia or working the sprawling farmlands of early America, fed their families. They understood the silent language of the harvest. Today, that ancestral knowledge has been buried underneath convenience, fast food, and plastic packaging. But I am going to bring it back to you. I will tell it slow, step by step, so you can remember what your hands were always meant to know. Before we walk over to the pile of melons and get our hands on the fruit, I need to look you in the eye and tell you the honest truth. I am a man of my word, and I will never sell you a false promise. Anyone who guarantees you that they have a magic trick to find a perfectly sweet watermelon 100% of the time is lying, and they are likely trying to sell you something you do not need. Nature does not operate like a factory assembly line. A watermelon is not stamped out of a mold. It is a living thing, shaped by the unpredictable weather, the sudden summer rains, the unexpected droughts, and the subtle shifts in the soil. Even if you follow every single step I'm about to teach you, there's always a tiny chance, maybe 1 in 50, that the fruit might just be average. That is the reality of eating real, earth-grown food. We are working to give you a 95% success rate, completely eliminating the blind guessing, but we must always leave a little room for the mysteries of nature. Now, I must also speak to you about safety, and I ask you to listen very closely to this part. It seems simple, slicing a fruit, but the modern world has made us careless. A watermelon grows sitting directly on the soil for months. That means the thick green rind is covered in dirt, field runoff, and potentially dangerous bacteria from fertilizers or wildlife. Far too many people bring a melon home and immediately drive a knife right through the skin. When you do that, the blade of your knife drags all of those invisible contaminants from the outside directly into the sweet, watery flesh inside. The very flesh you're about to feed to your family. You must wash the entire outside of the watermelon thoroughly with clean water and a stiff brush before your knife ever touches it. Furthermore, the skin of a watermelon is tough and thick. A dull knife is a dangerous tool because it requires you to force it, and a forced blade will eventually slip. You must use a large, heavy, and very sharp knife. Cut off one end to create a stable, flat base so the fruit does not roll away from you. Keep your fingers well clear and take your time. Do not rush. Finally, once the fruit is cut open, it is no longer protected by its rind. If you leave cut melon sitting out on a picnic table in the hot afternoon sun for hours, it will spoil and it will make your stomach terribly sick. Keep the cut pieces cool and only slice what you plan to eat. Now let us get down to the absolute truth of the matter. Why do these old methods actually work? It is not magic, and it is not guesswork. It is just the simple, undeniable biology and physics of how a plant creates sugar from dirt and sunlight. I will tell it slow, so you can picture exactly what is happening underneath that thick green rind. First, you must look at the stem. The stem is the umbilical cord between the earth and the fruit. While the melon is growing in the field, that green vine is a living pipe, actively pumping water, nutrients, and raw starches directly into the core of the fruit. When the watermelon reaches its absolute peak of maturity, the mother plant knows its job is done. It naturally shuts off the valve. The stem dries out, shrivels up, and turns a dark, dead brown. If you look at a watermelon in the store and the piece of stem attached to it is still bright green, it means a human being came along with a steel blade and severed that cord prematurely. The fruit was still trying to eat, still trying to build its sweetness, and it was violently interrupted. A green stem is a biological guarantee of a premature harvest. Next, you must use your hands to turn the heavy fruit over and look for the field spot. A watermelon is heavy, so it sits on the exact same patch of soil for its entire life. Because that underside gets absolutely no sunlight, it cannot produce chlorophyll, the chemical compound that makes the rest of the rind green, but we are not just looking for a pale, colorless patch. If the spot is a pale white, the fruit was pulled from the dirt far too early. We are looking for a deep, creamy, buttery yellow. That yellow color is a visible chemical reaction. It proves that the melon sat on the warm summer soil long enough for the starches inside to fully convert into sweet, simple sugars. The longer it bakes in the sun, the richer that yellow spot becomes. Third, we must test the physical structure of the fruit by pressing against the skin with our thumbs. When a fruit is unripe, the cell walls inside the rind are bound tightly together by a complex structural carbohydrate called pectin. It feels like a solid block of concrete because the plant is aggressively protecting its immature seeds from animals. But as the fruit ripens, naturally occurring enzymes begin to break down that rigid pectin. The cellular wall softens. When you press firmly on a truly ripe watermelon, it should not feel like a rock. It should yield just a tiny bit, giving way to the pressure of your hands. That slight give is the physical proof that the enzymes have successfully broken down the tough defenses. Finally, we use our ears. We knock on it. A fully ripe watermelon is over 90% water. As the sweet sugars crystallize and the water fills every single interior cell to its absolute maximum capacity, the inside of the fruit becomes incredibly dense. When you give it a firm tap with your knuckles, you are sending an acoustic sound wave traveling directly through that tense, liquid environment. In a perfectly ripe, water-filled melon, that sound wave bounces around the tight cavity and echoes back to your ear with a deep, resonant, hollow thump. It sounds like a drum. If it gives back a dull, flat, or muted thud, the physics tell you the flesh inside is dry, spongy, and severely lacking the water content required to carry the sound. You might be asking yourself right now, if the signs of a sweet watermelon are so perfectly clear, why is it so incredibly difficult to find a good one at the modern grocery store? Why do we fail so often? The answer, my friends, is deeply rooted in the modern corporate food system. Commercial agriculture does not care about the sweetness of your fruit. They only care about logistics, extreme shelf life, and their own profit margins. A perfectly ripe watermelon, one with a completely dead brown stem and a deep, buttery yellow belly, is heavy and its cellular walls have naturally softened. It is fragile if a massive commercial farming operation leaves that melon sitting in the dirt until it is truly ripe. It becomes very difficult to stack by the hundreds inside those giant cardboard bins. It might bruise, or it might split wide open while bouncing down the highway on a diesel truck, traveling over 2,000 miles to reach a distant city supermarket. To a massive corporation, a bruised melon is lost money. So what exactly do? They rig the entire system against you. They send workers into the fields to sever those green stems weeks before the fruit is actually ready. They harvest hard, entirely unripe green fruit. Because an unripe fruit is essentially a bowling ball. It can survive the brutal, rattling journey across the country. It can sit under those harsh, fluorescent store lights for 3 or 4 weeks without rotting. They deliberately trade the natural sugar and the rich, authentic flavor of the earth for maximum physical durability. The system completely banks on your ignorance. They know perfectly well that most modern consumers have lost their connection to the soil. They know you will just walk in, look at a shiny green rind, pay your $7 or $8, and walk right out the door. And when you cut it open at home and find that it tastes like absolutely nothing, they know you will likely just blame yourself. Or worse, You will surrender entirely, come back the next week, and pay $10 or $12 for those tiny, sweating plastic tubs of pre-cut chunks, desperate for just a little bit of convenience. They are literally siphoning hard-earned wealth straight out of your pocket by selling you heavy, flavorless water weight, disguised as nutritious food. They want you to remain blind to the signs of nature. But once you understand the language of the harvest, you step completely outside of their game. You stop wasting your money and you take your power back. So let us put all of this knowledge together into a simple, deliberate process. The next time you find yourself standing in front of that mountain of green fruit, I want you to remember these 4 steps. I will tell them to you slow so you do not forget. Step 1. When you approach the bin, do not rush. Ignore the artificial lights and the busy shoppers around you. Take your time, pick the melon up in your hands and feel its heavy weight. Turn it over and look for the belly. You are searching for the field spot. If the fruit is entirely green all the way around, or if that spot is a bright, pale white, put it right back down. Do not waste a single dollar on it. You must demand to see a rich, creamy, buttery yellow patch. Step 2. Check the umbilical cord. Look directly at the exact spot where the stem used to be. If you see a thick, bright green stub, you know immediately that the melon was stolen from the vine far too early by a commercial farm. Leave it behind. You must look for a stem that is dry, brown, and completely shriveled. That is the plant clearly telling you that it finished its necessary work. Step 3. Apply firm pressure. Place your thumbs against the green rind and push down. You do not want to bruise or break the skin, but you need to test the internal structure of the walls. If it feels like a solid block of concrete, the pectin has not broken down. It is not ready. You are feeling for that very slight, almost invisible yield under your thumbs, telling you the enzymes have done their job. Step 4. The final test of physics. Hold the melon up and give it a firm tap with your knuckles. Close your eyes if you have to, and truly listen to the sound. You do not want a dense, muted thud that stops right at the surface. You want to hear a deep, resonant, hollow echo bouncing back at you. That is the sound of heavy, crystallized sugar and water waiting inside. This weekend, I challenge you to step out of the rush of modern convenience. Walk into a local farm stand, or even your regular grocery store, and use your own hands and ears to read the harvest. Take your time. Do not let anyone rush you. Find the perfect fruit using these 4 undeniable signs of nature. And when you bring it home, wash the rind carefully, slice it open safely, and taste the genuine sweetness of the earth for yourself. Once you do, I want you to come back here and tell me about it in the comments below. Tell me if you heard that hollow drum. Tell me if the old ways worked for your family. Share this knowledge with someone you care about so they can stop wasting their hard-earned money too. Thank you for sitting with me today, and thank you for taking the time to remember what your hands were always meant to know.